Meeting of February 22nd to order. If anyone wishes to speak in public comment, you can fill out a speaker slip there in the, I think it's in the lobby at this time, and you can come up and well, where are we giving out the slips? In the lobby, okay. You can fill out a slip in the lobby. I'm going to ask Captain Williams if he'd come up and lead us in the pledge.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Let's move on to roll call. Jennifer, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Avila,
Here.
Councilmember Beaver,
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan,
Here.
Mayor Bogue.
Here. All right, so we don't have any special presentations, so that's going to take us directly into public comment. And I do have 2 speaker slips. Our first one is Ariana Hoon. Oh, let's start with Diane Smith.
We have a conflict.
Good evening. My name is Diane Smith, and my mailing address is P.O. Box 783 in Yucaipa. It's been 3 years since I first came to council to introduce you to pickleball. During that time, our club has grown from 4 players to 250. Initially, it was my understanding that the Parks and Recreation Master Plan was created 10 years ago, and because of that, it did not contain any references to pickleball, and that limited the city's ability to build any facilities that were dedicated completely to pickleball. I recently read the master plan from cover to cover, and I discovered that it doesn't matter that pickleball isn't mentioned in it. On page 1-1 of the Yucaipa Parks and Recreation Master Plan, it states, "It is intended that this report be a flexible document modified periodically as the city responds to unforeseen opportunities and constraints." Another concern was that the city had not yet built the number of tennis courts that our consultant who created the master plan thought we should have. It's stated on page 1-6 of the master plan that the city council is not generally constrained by law to implement or address findings of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I believe that the development of pickleball programs and the development of new pickleball courts are both fully supported by the recommendations included in the master plan. The following recommendations are taken from the master plan under section 4.5, recommendations for new programs and services. Recommendation number 1, expand programs, services, and facilities for all age groups that promote physical fitness, health and wellness, social interaction, and personal development. And pickleball promotes all of these. Recommendation number 16, expand family recreational activities that provide youth and their parents or guardians opportunities to interact, have fun, and learn together. Pickleball is an intergenerational sport that allows all generations to play together competitively. I play with my kids and my grandkids, and we all have very competitive games. As you begin to develop your goals and objectives for the coming year, I would like to encourage you to please consider developing dedicated pickleball facilities to accommodate a youth program for kids under 18 years old. The kids love to play, and we would oversee the development of the program if we had a dedicated facility for them to use. Pickleball is easy to learn and fun to play. Our club has taught a number of kids to play, and now we want to provide a structured program to reach out to more kids. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. So you went from 4 to 250 in 3 years?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Great
It's
job.
exploded.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Ariana Hun.
Hi, I'm speaking to you this evening about the CDBG CV Small Business Loan to Grant Program. I commend the city for taking on the development and implementation of this HUD-funded program. However, I have 5 questions. The first question is whether the loan to grant recipients are required to be COVID compliant. I note that CDBG CV funds are intended to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus pandemic. Providing loans to businesses that are not currently compliant with COVID-19 regulations or that become non-compliant during the loan period seems antithetical to the intended use of the funding. Further, the program contract requires all recipients to be in compliance with local, state, and federal laws and regulations. What is the city doing to ensure COVID compliance by loan recipients, and what consequences do violations have for program participation? Related, I note that one program requirement for qualification is that businesses have already exhausted all other funding options, including the County of San Bernardino COVID-compliant Business Partnership Program. Where a business with less than 100 employees has not qualified for this county program because it is not making efforts to comply with health orders, it would seem that these businesses have not exhausted the option and therefore do not qualify for CDBG participation. Second question, why did Yucaipa apply for CDBG CV1 funding only for the Small Business Loan to Grant Program? County Board of Supervisors meeting minutes from May 19th, 2020 suggest that Yucaipa was the only one of the 13 cities that did so. Barstow and Big Bear also applied to start small business loan programs, but they also did COVID-19 testing sites, emergency food delivery, and other programs to help a broad array of citizens. The third question is related. Why did the City Council vote down the city staff's proposal to use the remaining CV1 funds to help low-income residents directly through a utility rental and mortgage assistance program? This happened at the meeting of January 25th. The meeting audio suggests that council members feared that not enough Yucaipians would apply. No evidence was provided to support this idea, and no public comment was solicited on the decision before a directive was made to reopen the business grant program. There seems to be a missed opportunity here. Businesses are suffering because people do not have money to spend, and instead of using the leftover funding to help people to pay their bills so that they can afford to get takeout or buy a cup of coffee or get their clothes dry cleaned, the city is using over $200,000 to help 17 people by funding jobs that might have otherwise been terminated. 17 people is your impact. It would seem very much that the real beneficiaries of this program are not the people of Yucaipa or even the employees retained, but the business owners who net the funds that would have otherwise been used to pay the employees. I do recognize that businesses face trying times and need help, but the purpose of the HUD funding is to benefit low and moderate income persons. I'm not a forensic economist, but it does seem that the city of Yucaipa is not adhering to the spirit of the CDBG program. The fourth question, how did the city make its decision to fund businesses of 6 to 500 employees rather than 1 to 5 through the Micro Enterprise Business Grant Program opted for by cities like Riverside and Chino? Related, and this is the fifth and final question, I would appreciate if I could have the time to complete it. How did the city arrive at a grant amount of $10,000 per business? A comparison with our neighbors suggests that the $10,000 grants in Yucaipa are far higher than the $2,000 or $3,000 loans per business allowed in other cities. This is especially important to consider, given that the City Council decided the 4 businesses that already received loans can apply again, potentially entitling them to $20,000 each. This is a significant amount of money, particularly given the optics of a conflict of interest, where there are City Council members who have held political events at a business that is a potential recipient of these doubled CDBG funds. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that's moving right along. That takes us into the consent agenda, and that's items 1 through 7. Are there any items that one wishes to pull from the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second for the consent agenda, items 1 through 7. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to mayor and council member business reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to talk about? Justin? No? David? You good, John? All right, so that takes us to item number 8, which is the Youth Advisory Committee appointment, and this is for Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am here this evening as the staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Committee to recommend the appointment of Brenna Lane to the committee. The committee continues to serve as an advisory body to you, the Yucaipa City Council, with the intent to improve youth involvement in city issues, activities, and provide committee members a roadmap for success. Brenna is currently a sophomore at Yucaipa High School and is a Yucaipa resident. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, she has outstanding grades. She has also maintained high school extracurricular activities that include student council, clubs, and is on the swim team. Brenna is passionate about community service. She is inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. and wants to make a difference in our Yucaipa community. She is excited to join the committee, and the committee is equally eager to have her join them. The Yucaipa Advisory Committee members will continue to recruit for the remaining at-large vacant position. There is no fiscal impact as a result of this action. Brenna Lane is being recommended for appointment to the committee for a 2-year term, effective today through September 1st, 2022. At this time, I invite Brenna to say a few words, after which we'll conclude our presentation and city staff are available for questions.
Hi, it's so nice to see all of you. So I want to be on the Yucaipa Youth Advisory Committee because I strive to be a large help in making Yucaipa better and making difference in lives around me. I have always had a passion for helping people, and I would love to put that in action through this committee. I believe I have strengths that can help me with tasks such as my motivation, good communication skills, positive attitude, and teamwork. I feel that with my current experience, I can bring new and fun ideas to the table. What I hope to achieve is be a voice for teens in our community and get more people excited about getting involved. I aim to bring a new perspective and positive outlook through all that the committee does. My goal is to do my best with any task that I'm given, broaden my perspective, and encourage others to serve in their community as well. I love being able to help my community for the better, and I'm so thrilled for this opportunity. And I just want to thank you all for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you, Brianna. I'm glad that you applied. I've been involved with the youth advisory, whether it's through my kids or being on the initial startup for many years, and it's really a cool program. Thanks for being here. With that, we need to have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept this appointment.
A second.
We have a motion and a second, and after we vote, we're going to come down and take a picture with you, okay? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so we're going to come have our picture taken with you right here.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
All right, so that takes us to item number 9, the appointment to the Public Arts Committee. Is this Megan?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The Public Arts Committee consists of 1 member from Vision Quest, a member from the Yucaipa Valley Art Association, and 5 members of the public at large. On December 14th, 2020, City Council approved 5 members at large. Since that meeting, Vision Quest and Yucaipa Valley Art Association have held meetings and appointed their representatives for the committee. Vision Quest appointed Kit Satcher, and Yucaipa Valley Art Association appointed Bob Norris. The city received 1 application for the open at-large position from Daryl Bryan. Staff is asking City Council to review and consider the attached citizen service application submitted for the Public Arts Committee and approve the 2 representatives, 1 from Vision Quest and 1 from the Yucaipa Valley Art Association. This concludes my report, and I can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
All right, so are there any questions for staff? So Megan, we're looking to appoint Kit, Bob, and then Daryl. Those are three?
Correct. Bob was already appointed as a member at large, but the Yucaipa Valley Art Association appointed him as their representative, which then opened up an at-large position.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to accept the three?
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Daryl, well, I should have asked. Daryl, are you here?
She could not make it this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. So that takes us to item number 10, Healthy Yucaipa Committee selection, and this is Megan.
Yes. On December 14th, City Council approved 5 applicants for the Healthy Yucaipa Committee. A notice of vacancy was published on January 15th in the News Mirror. And applications listed and attached in your staff report were received. There was a total of 7 applications, and the applicants were notified of tonight's meeting, and some are here tonight. We are asking City Council to review and consider the attached citizen service application submitted for the Healthy Yucaipa Committee and make appointments for the 2 at-large vacant positions. And I would like to note that Rachel Gustafson, her name has 2 L's. She did want that clarified, and so in the staff report, there is only 1 L. That concludes my report, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
All right, are there any questions for staff?
No questions.
I should have done this on the prior, but does anyone want to get up and make a comment?
Is Mr. Morales here? Mr. Morales, I think you and I talked earlier, and you wanted to say a couple of words.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Robert Morales. Currently live here in the city of Yucaipa. And I currently serve as a middle school principal in the city of San Bernardino. And the reason I preface that information to you is when we look at, when I hear the word health or healthy, in my line of work, it's not only health and nutrition and diet and exercise, right? But one thing we do on a school site is attempt to treat every individual as a whole child, and as we make contact with families and youth and so on and so forth, we really try to get at the aspect of healthy lifestyle. We take a look at the social and emotional aspect as well. And so those are 2 unique components that I would like to bring to the table and hopefully have the opportunity to bring conversation to light in terms of those 2 things, adding extra emphasis on the word healthy. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Are there any others? I see Jeff, and then I will get you. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Jeff Distelberg. I'm a resident, first and foremost, of Yucaipa for 13 years. Very, very happy living here. Thank you all for your service. Also had the privilege of raising my kids here, enjoying the community and the parks, and kind of entering a phase of my life where I can give back a little bit more to my community. And just excited when I saw the announcement of this committee position open, was just excited to think about an opportunity to give back to the community that I love. In my work with Kaiser Permanente, one of the assignments that I carry is I'm a senior sponsor for all of our wellness programs for San Bernardino County. So for all of our physicians, our administrators, and really employees at large, we're charged with developing programs and connecting them to resources that will promote their wellness. And just as Mr. Morales said, that really covers the gamut from physical health to nutrition, diet, emotional and mental health well-being. So just excited to see if this is a good opportunity to me or for me, and wanted to thank you.
Sir,
you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How much involvement will you have with the Kaiser facility being built in Yucaipa?
I am not on the committee directly involved with the planning. Kaiser Permanente is a large organization, and all of the contract work and building happens in a construction division. I'm in operations and healthcare.
How about once it's open, once it's established in our community, will you be involved with programs here in the community as a liaison for Kaiser anyway?
I will. My role is to oversee operations for a number of departments, and so I will have departments that work out of that facility, and I will, visit there and round on my physicians and staff. Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so we have another speaker. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, so. Susan, come on up, Susan.
Hello, Mayor and Councilman. My name is Susan Duton, and I am a professor of nursing at CBU in Riverside. I've lived here in Yucaipa for 38 years now, raised my children here. And reason I am applying at this time is I have just given up a position, well, actually haven't given up, it just got defunded with the National Health Department of Health, in our Office of Minority Health in Washington, D.C., where I have been working with preconception health, which basically is life course health. So it incorporates health from, conception all the way through, because basically we look at the grandparents' health and, affecting the health of the mother, affecting the child that's growing up, will affect the next generation's health. So we look at health from the life course perspective, which includes physical health, mental health, community health, social determinants of health, the whole 9 yards. And as a result of that, I've also been working with students actually mainly on our campus, but also training other students in both California, Oregon, and even Arizona, and getting them prepared to be able to do training sessions on their campuses to carry this out. And we've been doing health fairs and all kinds of other things to be involved in the communities where these colleges are located. So anyway, having no longer being associated with the Office of Minority Health anymore, it's like, okay, I've got time now that I can devote more time to our own community. When I was going through my doctoral program, I actually was involved doing some things here in Yucaipa. And I went to Western University of Health Sciences, and they actually have a big emphasis on looking at people that were having issues with, getting resources. And so they wanted us to look in our own community to see what kind of things were available for the disadvantaged. And at that time, I remember making a round to see where all of our food banks and everything was. And at that time, it went to two of our food banks that were pretty popular. One was the Yucaipa Community Service, or Yucaipa, trying to remember what.
Hey, Susan, really quick, I failed to notify the pro tem over here that we have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But that's okay. You can finish up what you have here, and I didn't put the timer on, but go ahead and finish your
anyway,
thought.
at that time, the Catholic Church and Yucaipa Family Services, that's it, both were really super low. And so I'm like, okay, I thought, okay, what can we do? So I called Marie Teeters at the News Mirror and said, okay, what can we do here? Can you run a story? Can we get food? And she's like, why didn't they call me? I can do all kinds of things. So in that particular time, she got the football team to go do a food run and fill it up. So anyway, there's lots of things that can be done, and I'd like to be part of that.
Thank you, Susan. Are there any others that would like to speak? An applicant? Are you an applicant? Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Dr. James Jaton. The name may sound familiar. My wife and I have a passion for this city. We've both been here for many, many years, and as she said, we've raised our kids here. I am thrilled with the opportunity to possibly be able to give back to the city of Yucaipa in this way. I'm currently the dental director for the Yucaipa Center for Health. We're obviously stymied right now with COVID-19, but we look forward to opening at the appropriate time. I also have ties and volunteer work with the San Bernardino Department of Public Health, and had the pleasure of being on the working with Patton State Hospital for many years as their vice chief of staff. I have a lot of things I can bring to this committee. My resume is in your hands. There's a lot to be done. And I'm excited that even if I don't get appointed to this committee, the Yucaipa Center for Health is going to be providing more services, dental, medical, food bank, and so many other things that this city just very direly needs. And I'm glad to be part of it.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Are there any others? So as you know, we have only 2 positions, and we have obviously 4 highly qualified individuals for 2 positions. So we can't pick all of you, but I have to tell you, please, if you don't get the position today, stick around, let's find something else. There might be something else that opens up. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the council and figure out.
I would like to have the council consider Dr. Morales. He was the only candidate who reached out to me, and we had a very interesting discussion, and he told me about his, he kind of gave you a little bit of what his thoughts and ideas are. And with respect to the pandemic as it is, and people staying at home in lockdown, he brought an interesting perspective on how healthy Yucaipa is more than just nutrition and physical fitness, is that there's some social and psychological well-being that we need to attend to in addition, because as we know, if you have kids that are being, at home and doing homeschooling or Zooming, there's a lot of things that they're missing out on, and there's a lot of social and psychological impacts. And he had some ideas, and he's very much aware of them. And I was impressed how he thought outside of the traditional exercise and nutrition. With that, I would love to recommend Dr. Morales to be considered to be on the committee.
Do you want to pick, should we each pick 2? Would that be easier, Jennifer?
There's only 2 spots, so if you want to nominate 2 and then do a vote, or nominate 1 and do a vote, and then move on to the next one, up to you.
Okay, let's just do that. Let's one at a time. I will second Robert Morales. I think he did contact me. I was contacted by 2 individuals. I was contacted by Jeff Distelberg and Robert Morales, and they both seem highly qualified. And James and Susan Jutton? You guys are obviously extremely qualified also. With that, I'm going to pick Jeff and Robert Morales. Jeff Distelberg and Robert Morales. Was I clear on that? Okay. Bob, do you want to go?
Well, I agree with you.
Okay,
I'll second that if that's your motion.
okay. Justin?
I think having Jeff's involvement with Kaiser will already bring his abilities to bring his influence to our community. So while I appreciate his applying, I'm not going to recommend Jeff at this time. I agree with everything Councilmember Avila said about Mr. Morales. I think having the insight into the youth of our community and their well-being, specifically as it relates to their lack of interaction with their peers during COVID, puts him in the top running for this position. So I'm going to recommend Robert Morales. He also was the only one to reach out prior to this meeting by way of email. I'm going to nominate James Jatan. And I think by virtue of him being on the Health Yucaipa Committee, I refuse to believe that he's not going to bring the insight of his wife to the meetings as well. So we gained 2 by adding 1. So my recommendation is James Jatan and Robert Morales.
Okay, do you want to nominate a second, since I went down the wrong road here?
I hadn't thought about a second one. I'm going to defer to the majority on this.
John?
I would agree with Justin, and I was going to request we consider Jeff and James.
I'm sorry?
I was going to request that we consider Jeff Disselberg and James Jetton.
Okay. So right now we have 3 for Jeff Disselberg and Robert Morales, and 1 for Robert Morales and James Jetton. And then, David, are you?
If I had to pick Mr. Jetton,
Okay, so that's,
Dr. Jetton, excuse me.
so I will take, anyone want to make a motion on the 2? Was that your
Mr.
motion? Did
Mayor.
you already make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, just procedurally, we do have a motion and a second on the table. Your motion with Councilmember or Vice Mayor Duncan's second, so that motion is still on the table.
So we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay, so your motion was for Jeff and Robert.
For Jeff and Robert, right? You made that motion, I second that motion.
Okay. So,
So it could be,
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So it's for Jeff and Robert.
that was your motion, seconded by
By
Mayor Pro
Bob.
Tem. And so that was on the table. It could have been withdrawn, it could have been substituted. It proceeded to a vote, and it appears that there were 3 affirmative votes for that.
Correct. So we're good, right?
And then I haven't heard from the other 2 council members whether they're voting no or abstaining or.
I'm voting no
You voted no?
for that.
Me as well, no.
Okay, so 3-2. James and Susan, you guys are highly qualified, and I'd ask that you keep your eye out for other opportunities. We'd love to have you. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to item number 11. This is Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last council meeting, you directed staff to return to you to address the rules and procedures for seating of time. Based on that direction, we are before you this evening with the amendment to section 2.5, 2.6, and 5.2 to prohibit seating of time, and we have one additional cleanup to section 5.1C. There are no other amendments or cleanup revisions, so at this time, we're proposing resolution number 2021-12, which rescinds 2018-46, and adopting the amended rules of procedures for City Council and related functions and activities. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
So are there any questions for Jennifer? Justin? Bob?
No.
No. So do we have a motion to accept item number 11?
I motion that we accept item number 11.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to possible action on pending legislation. In our,
I just
Item
have
is
the
number-
one item.
what's that?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ray.
I just have the one item this evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's a follow-up to SB 9 from Atkins, increased density in single-family zones. And it says, as introduced 12/7/2020, as we talked about previously, this legislation is likely to evolve over time. So it's the version that was introduced in 12/7. The League of Cities has since acted on this item, first in the Economic Development or Housing and Economic Development Committee, and then that recommendation was forwarded to the the full board, and it's come back to cities for consideration relative to their recommended oppose unless amended position. And what you have before you this evening is a letter that reinforces that position to Temper Atkins and CC to others as well. Senator Bogue, Chad Mays, Assemblyman, Laura Morales, the Regional Public Affairs Manager, and of course, Meg Desmond at the League of Cities. And just a reminder about some of the elements of SB 9. It essentially takes away local control in its current configuration from City Council or Planning Commission. It requires that a city ministerially approve a housing development containing 2 residential units in a single-family zone. It also requires a local government to allow a developer to convert an existing single-family home into a duplex and then add an accessory dwelling unit, a junior accessory dwelling unit to the same parcel. And requires a local government to ministerially approve a single-family lot split, creating 2 lots. So Cal Cities or League of Cities is, in their amendment requests, is wanting to clarify that a property owner using SB 9 is limited to 2 residential units, not able to add on the accessory dwelling units on top of that. Also requires a housing developer to acquire a building permit within 1 year to discourage the speculators out there that might split lots and not build homes on those within that 1-year period. Does allow local governments some local control in terms of providing adequate police services, fire services, et cetera, in that permitting process, and prohibits developers from using SB 9 in our very high fire severity zones. Allows some control in terms of lot sizes that are appropriate, and then does, and this is likely to be the case regardless, but does allow cities to get RENA credit for those units. And again, take into account local conditions, lot dimensions, natural hazards, et cetera. It does also allow for local agencies to incorporate public parking standards. And the last item is largely subjective in nature, would have to manifest itself in some language in the updated legislation, but ensure large-scale investors and builders do not exploit SB 9 provisions. So that would have to be converted to some kind of definitive language in updated versions of the bill. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but there is a letter recommended opposing unless amended for this bill by the whole council.
All right, so are there any questions for staff? Justin, you have anything?
No.
No. All right, so we have a motion to accept the letter of opposition to SB 9.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, so we have John and.
I wasn't on. I second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to item number 13. I believe this is Ben.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Before you is a request for the award of professional services for the viticulture operations.
May I interrupt? Yes. I apologize. I didn't realize it came up this soon. I have to recuse myself as it may be a potential conflict of interest. So with that, leave the dais for now. I'm sorry.
Sorry for not warning you, David.
All right, so is the award of professional services for the viticulture operations and associated development standards Phase 2 project, or kind of more appropriately, the AVA implementation planning for the city of Yucaipa as wine growing activities support continues to grow and interest develops. The project itself is to help develop the appropriate land use tool to help ensure the orderly development of wineries and balancing the requirements that cities have with other components of the general plan and zoning requirements. And so as part of it, the project itself, as council might recall, was split into 2 phases. The initial phase, which was kind of exploring the high level concepts and concerns and priorities that we have, was awarded through phase 1 to Placeworks on September 12th, 2019. And through that initial public outreach efforts, it culminated into the phase 1 report, which was presented on January 25th, 2021, as different options that the city may pursue to help support the AVA implementation. Ultimately, council recommended pursuing a master planned approach, allowing for clustered development in order to address the different regulatory requirements that we do have to help facilitate the AVA implementation. And since that council direction, Placeworks did prepare a scope of work for that. Staff is recommending a sole source with Placeworks because they have worked on the phase 1 report, and so they've done a lot of outreach efforts so far for the different stakeholders that would be involved in the AVA implementation. They're familiar with the different regulatory constraints that the city has and the existing zoning, and that background knowledge gets some jumpstart that wouldn't be replicated by other firms. And so with that, staff does recommend approval. The contract award is for 25 or for 200,000, 25 or 250,000, sorry. And then as part of that, the city had been awarded a Sustainable Lands Conservation Program grant from the California State Department of Conservation, so the grant itself would pay for the entire phase 2 project for the preparation of the specific plan. And I do want to just quickly note on the recommendations that the recommendation is to execute the professional services agreement for the viticulture operations and associate development standards phase 2 project. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And then Sheila Cedarval with Placeworks, the project manager proposed for the project, is also on the phone to help answer any questions.
All right. Well, 2,500 is better. So are there any questions for staff? Don, you have anything?
Nope.
Bob?
I do. So we've gone through phase 1 now. And the decision we made at, 2 meetings ago about the housing element, do we have enough information now for Placeworks to proceed? Are they going to take all that into consideration as they develop the housing element part of this? And we're doing an overlay here, right? Is it going to be a viticultural overlay, or what's it going to be called? Do we know?
So the proposed project would be essentially developing a specific plan that would delineate the agriculture areas, the different uses that would support and help ensure the market viability of those uses, and then also provide clustered housing to address the state law no net loss provisions. As part of the scope of work, I do want to add there is continuation of the AVA Planning Committee efforts, and so using that as the vehicle to help address some of the high-level design stuff as we start refining the program. And then also continued public outreach efforts, so it includes doing surveys and then also trying to attend one of the city's larger festivals, provided COVID restrictions don't limit that, in order to get additional feedback from community members as we really take the high level that was addressed through phase 1 and then really refine it into an actual implementable program as part of phase 2.
Was the young lady from Placeworks satisfied with the input that she got as far as it being adequate?
I believe, yeah, Placeworks can speak, but I think we have at least initial direction on how to go. The scope of work provides the needed flexibility to really cater a specific plan to the needs and the public input that we receive through that process, and then making sure that it provides enough direction so that if future winery operators look to develop, they have a clear path on what that opening process would be on how to establish an actual commercial winery.
Justin, you have something?
I just want to emphasize my desire to see the agricultural side of this project be pushed more than the residential side. I understand RENA, but I also recognize that over the last 2 meetings now, we've addressed different agenda items that specifically talk about trying to combat the state's overreach in our housing development. With that being said, I would like to please keep an eye on any changes to state legislation that would allow us to analyze this project and its feasibility to make this an agricultural project and not a residential project wherever we can. Again, I recognize that we don't need to have a net loss, but also we lost a huge agricultural segment of our city when we lost the orange groves to Chapman Heights, and I'd like to get some of that back. I think that's where, from this seat, I'd like to see that be the direction of this project.
Okay. My question is that all the landholders, have they all been notified and they're all going to participate in this process, or?
A few of the larger landowners are aware of the phase 1 and kind of the phase 2 direction, so they've been aware of that. And then as part of the phase 1 activity, some of the stakeholder interviews included the larger property owners within the North Bench area as well. So they've been kind of given some of their ideas of what they would like to see, or kind of that balance that they're hoping to achieve as they move forward with their plans. And then certainly phase 2 would continue to do additional outreach with them as well.
Okay, so with that, is there a motion for item 1 and 2?
I motion we move forward with items 1 and 2.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, so we have Ray, do you have something?
It just as amended, Ben referenced the language that is needing to be amended. It's not the housing element. It was leftover language. It's AVA implementation phase 2.
Okay, was that in your motion?
It sure was.
Okay. And that was in your second?
That was indeed, yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so it's going to take us to item 14. Is this yours for me?
Yes. Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. This item is regarding the Measure I 5-year capital improvement plan and a resolution. Each year, the city receives approximately $850,000 in Measure I funds from SBCTA. This funding is to be used for street repairs or street rehabilitation. Measure I is the countywide transportation sales tax program, and these Measure I funds, along with general fund resources, SB1 funds, and also franchise fee revenues, are part of the annual budget for the pavement management program. The annual PMP budget is approximately $2 million. The Measure I strategic plan requires that cities that receive this Measure I funding annually adopt a 5-year capital improvement plan showing how the Measure I funds will be used. The plan includes a list of street segments that will be repaired or rehabilitated over the next 5 years, over the next 5-year period, utilizing those Measure I funds. As part of the 2021 budget adoption process, Council approved resolution number 2020-41, which adopted the 5-year plan for the city of Yucaipa for the year 2020 through 2024. Last year in 2020, the fiscal year 18-19 and 19-20 street rehabilitation programs were combined into one contract. Combining that contract, it did provide in higher quantities of work, of bid items. This resulted in favorable bids to the city with lower bid prices provided by the contractor. Those lower bid prices did allow the city to complete the rehabilitation of streets that were of street segments in advance. In other words, of street segments that were identified to be repaired in future years. So the proposed resolution 2021-13 before you identifies the list of these amended, a list of the revised streets. On the screen before you is the streets for year one. The streets listed, or the ones that are highlighted in yellow, are the ones that were added to the program. Adoption of this resolution does allow the city to be consistent with and in compliance with the Measure I strategic plan with its policies and procedures. The revised list of streets is attached to your agenda report. The resolution signature page, however, was provided to council under separate cover tonight and is available for public in the back of the room. With that, staff's recommendation is that City Council adopt Resolution number 2021-13, approving the revised Measure I 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 1920 through 23-24. That concludes my report. Staff is available for questions.
All right, so are there any questions for staff?
I just want to clarify that this is our planned capital improvement. This doesn't stop us from addressing any issues as far as maintenance of roads, or where we see that there might be issues, we can address them sooner. This is just for pre-planned.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is just for documentation purposes.
Okay.
Bob, do you have anything?
Yeah, I still haven't figured out that whole van thing with that little thing on the bottom that sort of gauges what the destruction of the deterioration of the asphalt. But is California Street on here from Avenue E to H, the wash? Is this on here? Because did I miss it?
It is not on, the attachment includes the street segments for the next 5 years. And I'll have to look through the list, but I believe that it is within the next 5-year.
Because from Avenue E through the wash to Avenue H, that asphalt is destroyed. And I've never, I mean, I had so many complaints about that stretch of road. We've got some bad spots other places too, but in the wash, that is just horrific.
I do want to point out, however, that in future meeting, in the near future, we will be coming back to City Council with a draft pavement management program for the fiscal year 2021, 2022, the next 5 years, and that will provide an opportunity for council to review the test results from the tests that we did 2 years ago, and we can look at that then, but we'll certainly look into that street segment. So it's a segment of California Street between Wildwood Canyon Road and Avenue H that you're referring to.
Okay.
David, do you have anything?
Just real fast, just to educate me, because I never remember this stuff. When there's emergency repairs, maybe not emergency repairs, but answering complaints that Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Duncan and I receive quite frequently about certain streets, and if you look at them, they're in massive disrepair. Are these Measure I funds used for that type of purpose? It's really not on the PMP, and it's not listed here. But are those repairs under a separate cover, under different fund source?
Yes, they are. Those are part of our Public Works Operations budget, which is funded by a gas tax and general fund resources.
Okay.
John, do you have anything?
Nope.
So this is actually separate from our PMP. This is not the same thing.
It's separate from the PMP, but it is memorializing what we've done in previous years.
Right, okay. All right, so are there any further questions? We have a motion.
I'll move to accept.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to item number 15. Is this for me?
Yes.
Okay.
This item is an authorization to apply for funding from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. This item is for funding to complete the next phase of construction of the Wilson 3 Basin Project, Phase 1A is currently under construction, and as council is aware, that includes the mass grading for the project. Council awarded the contract for the first phase, for Phase 1A, in October of last year. And if you've driven by the project site lately, you can see that construction is well underway. The adopted fiscal year 2020-2021 CIP identifies this $4 million loan/grant as a funding source for Phase 1B and Phase 2, which are the next two phases of construction for the project. One unique thing about this funding program is that it provides loans for projects initially, and then these loans can turn into grant or loan forgiveness if certain criteria are met. The Federal Clean Water Act established the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund back in 1989. This program will fund projects that do several things, such as improve water quality, projects that help restore biological resources, projects that provide flood protection, and also projects that provide sustainably managed water resource systems. In California, the interest rate for these loans has been between 1% and 2% over the last 5 years. Currently, that interest rate is at 0.9%. Also in California, these loans can be financed for up to 30 years or may also become grants through a loan forgiveness process. That loan forgiveness may apply for communities if a beneficiary is a disadvantaged community. As you're aware, the Wilson III Basin project will primarily benefit the Dunlap area, and staff believes that this loan has a good chance of ripening into a grant as we move forward in the process. Staff has also recently learned that the South Mesa Water Company has has received grant funding for a waterline project due to their service area being in a disadvantaged community in Yucaipa. Loan forgiveness will be determined as part of a subsequent step in the process, in the application process, and that process will also require council action at that time. The proposed resolution before you is for the authorization to submit a loan application, as I mentioned, in the amount of $4 million. And then if this item before you is approved, the loan application will then be submitted. Once it's reviewed and approved by the state agencies, we will look at the loan forgiveness program and provide information regarding the disadvantaged community and the project beneficiaries. And also any loan parameters may be established at that time, and we'll come back to council with a resolution and a recommendation once we get to that point. The exhibits on the screen before you you've seen before. This exhibit here shows the limits of the Phase 1A construction. Again, we have Oakland Road up at the top, 2nd Street here, and the areas within the blue are the areas of the mass grading, which include the future city yard area, the Innovation Center here off of Bryant Street, and again, moving the material from the basin area over here to the future residential area. Phase 1B, which is the component of the project that staff believes that this application will benefit from, includes a lot of the flood control structures, the basin inlet, the channel improvements and the channel riprap along here from Oakland Road to the basin, and the storm drain components. And then Phase 2 includes the downstream improvements from 2nd Street, and also the lake improvements and the groundwater recharge components within the lake and downstream. And again, this is a concept plan that council has seen in the past, which shows the residential lots on the north, and then the basin lake, and then also the park between the basin project and the residential area. That concludes my report, and staff recommends that council approve staff's recommendations as listed in the agenda report for this item.
All right, so are there any questions for staff?
I do,
Go ahead, Bob.
so back when we started this with KB Home, there was a deal that we were talking about for $10 million. We were gonna trade the property, which consisted of 204 sites at that time, for $10 million, and we weren't gonna get any money, we were just gonna trade the money to build out the infrastructure. Is that not right?
That's pretty close, yes.
Pretty close, pretty close. So now, has this thing morphed into something different? Because did we not get enough for the land to build this project? Has the infrastructure of this project grown and become more expensive? I mean, $4 million, and we have to pay it back in order to finish this project. I thought we had this thing sort of covered with the sale of the property, going to cover the infrastructure so that the basin could be built.
Yeah, that's why I said close. The $4 million loan/grant, and we are optimistic that at least a portion, if not all of it, could ripen to a grant once we get in this process with this program. We first went to council in 2015 and made the request to pursue this loan/grant through the state revolving loan fund. At that particular time, we thought the best focus for us would be recycled water. It turned out over time that the best focus was really recharge. And so we've spent literally 5 years working with the administrators of the program in perfecting the application, and are before you this evening with call it a perfected or an updated application in the recycled water, recharge water quality element instead of the recycled water. The other thing I'd like to clarify, I guess, is for whatever reason, KB Homes went a different direction, decided that there was too much risk, I guess, associated with the project. But as you referenced, they were interested in the entire 200 lots at that time. Right now, we have an agreement with Woodside Development for the 144 lots. There is no agreement yet for the Phase 2 element, which was part of that KB Homes consideration at the time.
So basically, has this project gotten more expensive, or did we just not get enough from Woodside to pay for it?
Well, it's not gotten more expensive per se. I'm not going to say that it hasn't. It's not more costly today to build a project like this than it is in 2015. There is certainly a construction cost increase year over year that has contributed to the cost of the project. But in 2015, we anticipated needing the loan-to-grant program to help fund the project as well. There are two other sources of funding. One is that we are working on. One is Muni. Muni's approved, San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District has approved $1.8 million for the project for Phase 1. They've also tentatively, well, I won't go that far. They have reviewed our application for Phase 2 funding, the downstream section that Mr. Preciado referred to a minute ago, if you could point that out. They've looked at our application for Phase 2 funding at least favorably. I won't say that they tentatively approved it, but they've looked at it favorably. And Western Heights has expressed an interest in participating in Phase 2 as well. So those are all other sources of funding that we have talked about previously with council. Can't say that they are a sure thing, but we have said that we've made progress on those fronts as well. So yes, there are construction cost increases year over year from 2015 to this last year when we awarded the contract that have contributed to the cost. But we have always had the loan-to-grant program in our CIP for this project.
All right, David, do you have anything?
Just real fast, and it kind of piggybacks on Mayor Pro Tem's questions and comments. In the last paragraph, it says in part, if the recipient, forgiveness may be provided if the recipient meets the state's affordability criteria, or if the project will address water and energy efficiencies. Now, if today we had the $4 million and the low-interest loan, do we meet the state criteria in pursuing a forgiveness? If we were to do it today, and do you anticipate it down the road?
Yeah, the answer is I believe that is the case for several reasons. As Mr. Preciado mentioned, recently South Mesa Water Company has conducted a pretty comprehensive study to determine that their jurisdictional area, part of which is in the city of Yucaipa, meets those disadvantaged community criteria. We've also demonstrated to the state with other project applications, grant applications, that the Dunlap area, which is Western Heights, not South Mesa, but the Dunlap area meets their disadvantaged community criteria. So I believe we will meet the disadvantaged community criteria for those two reasons. But every program has a different department administrating their these criteria, and so I can't say 100% for sure, but I do believe that it will meet those criteria in this program.
Okay, and then finally, phase 2 of this overall project is what I'm hearing will not have any impacts on our ability to meet the state's criteria of affordability.
Well, the phase 2, let me make sure I understand the
Well,
question.
we have phase 1.
Right.
144 homes.
Yes, phase
I mean,
1A, and then.
That's 1A.
Yep.
and That's, I guess.
Oh,
1B.
in terms of residential, I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
residential. Those homes, they have no impact on our application process should we go for the state's affordability, and get a grant. So.
No, the affordability is purely related to those that are your beneficiaries for the project, which for us in this project will
It's
be
going to
the
be the
Dunlap
downstream
area.
people.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I make sure of. Yeah, thanks.
John, do you have anything? You're good? Okay. All right, so I guess I can give my input. My input was if it's a loan to grant program, I don't have any problem pursuing it. If it's just a loan program, I would be opposed. But there is an opportunity to convert this into a grant, so that was my position. All right, so with that, we have a motion.
I'll motion to move this item.
A motion?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, so 4-1. All right, so with that, I will temporarily adjourn city council meeting.
And I will call the successor agency meeting to order. And the first item is the approving of the meeting minutes from January 11th, 2021.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, we have a staff report. Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members of the successor agency. The item before you is the amended recognized obligation payment schedule for fiscal year 21-22. On January 11, 2021, the board of the successor agency approved the recognized obligation payment schedule, or ROPS for short, for fiscal year 21-22. As is procedure, the ROPS was then presented to the county-wide oversight board. This oversight board approved the ROPS with the exception of one line item in the administrative budget in the amount of $112,055, which was for indirect overhead cost due to lack of supporting documentation. The oversight board allowed staff to revise and resubmit the ROPS and administrative budget. The amount that was resubmitted instead of the disallowed $112,055 was $69,024, which was approved by the oversight board at a subsequent special meeting. This new amount represents documentable staff and consultant costs and is part of the $72,024 you can see in your attachments and described as administrative costs. This is the only change from the ROPS previously approved by the successor agency. The oversight board did not require the successor agency to approve the revised ROPS. However, it would be prudent to adopt and approve the amended ROPS, which supersedes the ROPS previously approved. With that, staff recommends the board adopt resolution number 2021-16, approving the amended ROPS for fiscal year 21-22, and I can be available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ryan or staff?
So move.
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, I will adjourn the successor agency of February 22nd,
All
2021.
right, so I'll reconvene city council meeting, and that takes us to a public hearing. So I'll try to do this in order, like I try every week. Open the public hearing, and we will have staff presentation. And I do have a number of speaker slips for the record.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. So the item before you is the prioritization of projects for the fiscal year 21-22 Community Development Block Grant Funding, or CDBG funding. This public hearing is conducted annually with the purpose of seeking direction from council relative to the prioritization of funding of the eligible proposals, which is then passed on to the county for final funding approval. We have been notified by the county that the grant amount for next fiscal year will be approximately $275,506. As has been done in prior years, we have presented on the screen here the listing of the total grant amount and the amount eligible for funding of public service proposals, or 15% of total grant funds, and the amount that then would be available for capital project proposals, assuming full funding of the public service programs. That amount available for capital projects would be $234,180. 5 public service applications were received eligible by the county this year, 4 of which were organizations funded last year. Those 4 are San Bernardino Sexual Assault Services, San Bernardino County Library, Family Services Association Senior Nutrition Program, and the City of Yucaipa's Recreational Scholarship Program. The 5th, Family Services of Redlands, did not submit an application last year, but had been regularly funded for a number of years prior. The 5 eligible applications total $62,500, the requested amount. The maximum that can be allocated to public service due to the 15% cap is $41,326. The maximum that can be, it is relevant to note that 2 of these organizations did receive not-for-profit funding from the city's non-department budget in the current fiscal year, 2021. This is separate from the Community Activity Grant, the CAG grant. Those 2 agencies are our Family Services Association Senior Nutrition Program, which received $8,500, and Family Services Association Redlands Yucaipa Outreach Program, which received $5,000. And similar amounts may be included in next fiscal year's 21-22 budget, which will be presented to council for your consideration at a later date. The 2 eligible capital project submittals are the design and installation of curb, gutter, sidewalk, and curb ramps along the east side of 4th Street between County Line Road and Avenue H, and also the removal of existing flooring and installation of new flooring at the Senior Nutrition Center. You have received full application details for each proposal in your packets. As a reminder, these proposals will be 100% grant funded by federal CDBG funds, which are passed through to the city via the county, and there's no fiscal impact anticipated for the general fund, as these grants will be reimbursed by the CDBG funding. That concludes my report. Council may wish to hear any speakers, and then I can afterwards fill in allocations on the screen here as per your direction for both public service and capital projects that I can forward on to the county for this fiscal year.
All right, thanks, Ryan. I will call up, I do have 3 speaker slips. I'm going to start with Kira from FSA of Redlands. Is she remote?
Hi.
Hello. Kira, where are you from?
Oh, hi. My name is Kyra Stewart. I'm the Executive Director of Family Service Association of Redlands, and Yucaipa Outreach Program is part of one of our programs. We have a 800 square foot satellite office on 4th Street in partnership with Redlands Community Hospital. And is it my turn to speak? I guess I better clarify that formality before I start. Sorry.
Yes, you're on your 3 minutes.
Okay. So thank you, Mayor, Council Member, and the City of Yucaipa staff for the opportunity to present, and also thank you for your past, present, and hopefully future support. The Yucaipa Outreach Program operates 2 different programs. One is called a Family Support Program, and the other one is the Housing Assistance and Advocacy Program, whose overall goal is to prevent and fight homelessness in the region. And I am still working on auditing our 2020 numbers, but I wanted to report some numbers for our food and rental program for Yucaipa in 2019. We provided 17 families with 24 months of paid rent, past due rent, all in an effort to prevent homelessness. And we also provided 139 families, which represented 158 children, over 350 bags of food. And so we are requesting support through the CDBG program to support staffing and salaries in that office located on 4th Street. And I just want to bring attention that when COVID hit, we kept our doors open. We only closed for 2 weeks just to get sneeze guards installed and other safety equipment for our staff. But we were open the entire time as a safety net agency for families in crisis. And we started a food box program every Tuesday that was a drive-through food box program where we administered over 3,000 boxes of food. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Elizabeth Williams.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Elizabeth Williams, and I'm the branch manager at the Yucaipa Branch Library. I would first like to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Adult Literacy Program at the Yucaipa Branch Library. Language and literacy skills form the foundation of academic achievement. Struggling readers ages 8 to 10 show significant gaps in development during this time. People who fail to meet basic literacy skills by the age of 10 are far more likely to drop out of school, further setting them up for a bleak future. Basic literacy skills are a vital part to the successful living in society. Literacy has a major role in being able to function day to day at work, at home, and at play. A community can only thrive when those living within it are willing to be able to produce effective ways to edify and sustain it. To accomplish this, a foundation of the most basic needs must be met in that community, and at its core lay basic functional literacy skills. At the Yucaipa Branch Library, we meet this need in our community, providing the service of an adult literacy program. Our objective is to teach basic reading and writing skills to each English-speaking participants. Learners in our adult literacy program receive the opportunity to get confidential, one-on-one help from our dedicated literacy tutors. Before meeting with a tutor, the prospective learner meets with our adult literacy specialist to address their goals in terms of what they would like to accomplish by taking part in our program. Often the goal of the learner is to apply for a job or to be able to help their children with their homework. Whatever the goal may be for entering the adult literacy program, this becomes the start of a regular relationship within the library. And as participants become more comfortable using and understanding our resources, through their affiliation, they begin to introduce family members, friends to the resources of our library, thereby allowing the library to have a long-lasting impression affecting generations. While the Yucaipa Branch Library is not the only resource for candidates of literacy, we are proud to offer this service to the community at no cost to the participants. We have continued to meet with our learners and tutors virtually to comply with COVID-19 safety guidelines. With your continued support, the adult literacy program can continue to aid adults who have fallen through the cracks of the traditional education system. Through the help of the adult literacy program, participants have been awarded a second chance of becoming active and productive members of their community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Tom Donahue?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, staff. My name is Tom Donahue. I'm the Program Administrator for Family Service Association, the Senior Nutrition Meal Program. We've been proud to be a partner. I've been associated with the city since 2013 with our particular meal program, but we've been here much longer than this, providing meals to the seniors at the Shearer Senior Center, which you see on your capital improvement budget as well. One of our main missions when I was here talking with the council last year was our mission is to provide seniors with a warm, nutritious meal, but part of our job was to provide a sense of community and to help end isolation and to help build the quality of life for seniors. When COVID hit, it flipped it on its head because isolation was the name of the game at that point, and we soon discovered quickly that food insecurity with our senior population became a huge, huge issue. Similar to Kyra, we were able to convert our programs that we have in the city of Yucaipa, which are two. We provide a meal at the Shearer Senior Center, and it's now a once-a-week drive-through meal distribution program. But we also take care of those seniors that you don't see, who are homebound. We currently have about 80 Yucaipa residents that we deliver meals to from the Shearer Senior Center, and each week we distribute anywhere from 70 to 80 seniors that come through our meal distribution program. We serve about 300 unduplicated seniors between our two programs. We continue to see that going forward. But the big thing, because of food insecurity, what we've seen is an increase in the amount of meals that we serve, because now every senior gets 5 meals per week. We were serving about 30,000 meals last year. We're going to be closing in over 40,000 meals this year that we're. One of the things that you get with Family Service, because we are a strong community-based department in the county, the letter I gave you is a program that we were administered a grant to help support the county and Department of Aging and Adult Service to be their partner to provide information out to the community on the effects of COVID and the need to become vaccinated and tested. Part of this mission is we just received this grant, and we want to partner with the city of Yucaipa as one of the targeted areas in providing this information to work with your communication efforts out to your residents on the need to get vaccinated, where you can provide services, get transportation, and other impacts that COVID has put upon your community. I'll talk with you more about this in future meetings, but I wanted to give you this press release that we just put out this past week. We're very proud of this grant because they sought us out. They look for somebody that is involved throughout the region as a community leader to make sure that we can provide this outreach and effort because of the strong partnerships we have with communities like the city of Yucaipa. We appreciate your support in the past years, and we hope that you will consider renewing our grants in whatever dollar form you make for this CDBG period for 2021-22. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on our senior meal program.
All right, thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Ryan, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I do not at this time.
Okay, so at this point, then I will close the public hearing and open it up for council discussion. I would like to note that we need to break this into two different categories. We have the capital improvement side, and then we also have the community service or public service side. So I think what we should do is go ahead and discuss the capital improvement side first and make a motion and make a motion and a vote. So any discussion on the capital improvement side?
I have no discussion, but I'd like to move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second his motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to accept the capital improvement portion of the CDBG.
If I may, for clarification, it might be good to specify the dollar amount for the projects that you are moving to approve.
For
For the capital projects.
234,180 in total?
Yes.
Correct? And I think it's 40,000 for one, and what's 194, 180 for the other?
Correct.
Is that what your motion was, David?
Yes.
Okay.
My second was
That was
as
your
well.
second, too?
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to the second portion, the public service proposals. So does anyone have any suggestions?
I can go, if you, just a suggestion. I looked at all the applicants, and the only one I know for sure that didn't get any other support outside of the city is the scholarship for the sports. And when I broke it down evenly, everybody received $6,500, and it came out to a total balance of $41,000 with the $326 left over, and I was going to either give it to the scholarship program, and we'll do that. Give it to the scholarship program. And I think that comes out to 41,326. I think it came out, right?
Have I represented that appropriately on the spreadsheet?
Yes.
So you were at 15,326 for the city of Yucaipa?
Yes, for the scholarship program.
Right. Well, I was very close to that. I was at 15,000 for the city of Yucaipa and 65,81 or something. But I accept what you did there. John, you have any suggestions?
No, I'm good with that one.
Okay. Bob?
So, Family Service Association, DBA-FSA, went from how many thousand to 30? I mean, I don't remember the number, but it sounded like because of this COVID nonsense that your meals for seniors, and I'm not really sure, what does the city of Yucaipa do? Offer scholarships to young people? Is that it?
Yeah, Megan could answer the question better, but it's scholarship programs for our, scholarships for our programs and others for the youth, but also it's been expanded to include seniors of late, I think.
Correct. Currently, we have the Stars Before and After School program that's operating at the community center. Families who are low income are able to apply for these scholarship funds to enroll in that program. And we also have programs going on such as contract classes, ballet, karate, and yoga. And those classes, you can also apply for scholarships if you're a low-income family member to try to help make a well-rounded individual and give them the opportunity to participate in classes offered at the Community Services Department here in Yucaipa.
That includes the seniors too. Yes.
Correct. Right now, the senior center is being used as a vaccination site, but we do have contract classes going on in our parks, and we hope to open the senior center this next fiscal year, and scholarship opportunities will be made available for seniors as well.
So basically, the fees that we charge them to participate will be waived. Is that correct?
In a way, we can't waive 100% because of the criteria of CDBG, but we waive a portion. So each family is allocated a certain amount of funds, and then a portion of those funds go to each activity.
Okay.
So we're making a moral decision here to take care of that. The children and the seniors are not going to be having the food. I have a real problem with that personally. I mean, I don't know what Family Services Association of Redlands actually does. I know they have an office at 4th Street, and I know their mission is to sort of help homeless people, which is also a moral issue. And feeding seniors is certainly pretty important. I can't agree with the way that's laid out now, but,
What are your numbers then?
well, I don't really know what my numbers would be, but I would say that take some away from the city of Yucaipa and give it to Family Service Association, the senior meals, and even put a little bit on the 5th one there, because I've been to that office, and of course, I'm not there all the time, but they actually try to help people that are living in their car. And when you're dealing with young people getting taken care of at the senior center, at the community center, or people living in their car, that's a moral issue, and I just have a real problem with that.
So you do, if I may, you do have another option, and your point is well taken, and they, as the speaker referenced, they do help families before they become homeless, keep them from becoming homeless, hopefully, in some of their efforts. But you also have the community activity grant, the non-department funding that Megan referred to earlier, Ryan referred to earlier, as another source of funds for the FSA, for example, or the nutrition FSA as well. And you have allocated funding, significant funding annually through the community activity grant program for those types of services as well.
Are we subsidizing this, the city of Yucaipa, other than this source of funding, are we subsidizing that from the city? Are we subsidizing that other than this funding?
Well, the non-department funding, which is annual funding, and the community activity grant funding, which is competitive, if you will, that you look at every year, both of those are subsidized from the general fund, absolutely. This is purely CDBG funding.
Well, this is,
And
just,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, David.
Just to be clear, this isn't the only money these programs are receiving. This is what they're asking of us. And they are getting thousands of dollars from other sources. Sam Manuel and Will J. Reed, private donations. There's other things going. Our share will be $6,500, but it's not all they're getting.
I understand that, but,
Okay,
I mean, but
so when you say the moral decision, it's just that, you're right, we have to make a decision, and we're looking at our youth and our seniors for their social and mental health, and they have other funds available to supplement the needs for feeding. And it's not as dire as you think. And I understand your position, but in the case of here, this is, if you look at their sources of income, we are the only source for their program. They're not getting it from anybody else.
okay.
Justin, you had something?
No, I was gonna clarify that as well. Without this, for the city of Yucaipa scholarship program here, there is no monies outside of this. However, for the other 4 applicants, there is other sources of income. So I'm gonna accept what Councilman Avila said.
So Justin, are you good with the numbers?
I'm good with these numbers as is.
Okay. So everyone, you were good with the numbers? I'm good with the numbers?
I'm good with the numbers.
You're good with the numbers?
Yep, good with the numbers.
All right, so is that someone like to make a motion with the numbers currently?
I'll make a motion that we approve these numbers.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Do you mind if I read the numbers for the record?
Please do.
Included in the motion. We have $6,500 included for all of the agencies except for the city of Yucaipa, which will be $15,326.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to announcements. Are there any announcements? Justin, you have any announcements? Okay, I can come back to you. Bob, you have something?
Well, just, do we have any idea at all, this is not an announcement, but as far as the Music and Arts Festival, obviously we're monitoring that, but are we getting some sense that we're going to have to dump that again this year?
No, I'm very hopeful now as the county, all the numbers across the nation have dropped and the county is moving into the red position, it looks like, from the purple to the red, and some changes are already being made. Youth sports are opened up, so school districts are starting to open up, as the mayor mentioned earlier. So I'm optimistic that by May, we'll have some level of normalcy. And again, the backup plan, hopefully we don't have to implement it, but the backup plan is to organize the viewers in pods, family pods, whatever definition it is at that time. But it is my hope that we are back to somewhat of a normal condition by then.
All right. Good.
Good, man.
Justin, did you figure it out?
Yeah, I just want to announce, I did send a letter to our congressman from me objecting to HR 127, entitled the Sabika Chic Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. For those of you who don't know about it, please research it. I think it's paramount that informed decisions are made by all, and we weigh on our elected representatives to relay our sentiments in Congress and at the state level.
Can you send that email to me, perhaps the other council? Well, I mean, not specifically to Congressman.
Send it to Ray,
but-
then Ray can disperse it, because
If I may, be happy to bring that to the full council for the full council to act at the next meeting as well, if that's the direction.
We can do that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean the letter, I just meant the information about the law.
Certainly.
Sorry.
I would like that to come before council for us to at least see if we would like to bring this up to our congressman as well from a city standpoint. The letter I sent was strictly from myself, but I think it is something that is of paramount importance that we at least entertain that idea. So for what it's worth, I request that come back to us.
Okay. David, do you have anything?
Nothing, no?
No. John, you good?
No, sir.
All right, so that takes us to closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one item on this evening's closed session. It's conference with the real property negotiator. It's regarding the property at the southeast corner of Oak Glen Road and Avenue E, with assessor's parcel number is listed on the agenda. City's negotiator is Mr. Casey, party's City of Yucaipa. Price and terms of payment will be discussed, and no reportable action is expected this evening.
All right, so we will now adjourn the city council meeting.
Hey, man. Excellent work, sir. Excellent work. Outstanding.